We get up to 14,000 feet. They rolled open the door and I looked down at that ground and my knees buckled. And one of them on my right side says, "Sir, this airplane's going to land and we're not going to be on it. We can either throw you out
Yeah.
or you can take us out. It's your call." And in that instant, looking in that guy's eyes, and my fear completely disappeared. And I went, okay, 1, 2, 3, boom, out we went. And it was epic. I was so enamored. I didn't even pull my ripcord. I was looking and they were pointing at me, giving the signal to pull. I didn't do anything. So one guy leaves, he tracks away, and the other guy reaches down with one hand and pulls my ripcord as he's backing away from me, and I go blasting up into my chute.
Yeah, exactly.
So now I steer the chute all the way down, and I land like 1.5 miles off the drop zone. I land in a cornfield. It's all muddy. I go, into the mud and stuff like that. And so I talk about trust in that way, that these guys, in my experience, they took away all of my fear.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Business Growth Pod. I'm Alan Draper, your gracious host. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. One way that you can kind of give back to me for this free content is just go ahead and leave me a review on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on, and then go ahead and hit the subscribe or follow button. Make sure that you don't miss any new episodes that we drop. I am very excited for our guest today. Very exciting guy. Very, very cool experiences. His name is Mike Manazir, and Mike has a passion for stories, leadership, big ships, fast jets, thundering Harleys, and one woman, Kelly, his bride of more than 40 years. That's impressive. Mike is the author of the book Lead to Win, and he was actually a Top Gun fighter pilot. He retired as a Two-Star Admiral and is now an executive with a Fortune 100 aerospace and defense company. Welcome to the show, Mike. Glad to have you.
Hey, Alan, it's great to be here. And if you call yourself a gracious host, then I'm a very gracious and grateful guest.
That's awesome, man. It's cool to, I think probably 20 episodes in or something, we had a fighter pilot on. I'm trying to remember the episode number. We'll have to put it in the show notes, but it's very cool to kind of have that. There's certain things that I don't know that I couldn't do, probably physically couldn't do it, but I wouldn't want to. You just must. Are you afraid of anything?
Oh yeah. I'll tell you a story if we get into it about trust. If we talk about trust, I'll tell you a story where my knees buckled. But no, I was just driven to fly fighters. I started that way, and I just loved it so much. I mean, flying Navy fighters off of aircraft carriers is probably the best experience in the free world. It's just fun, especially during the daytime. Nighttime, it can get pretty scary.
So, well, now I need to hear the story. So we're going to talk about trust because I want to know what made your knees buckle.
It's not in the book, but there's a bunch of stories that kind of fell on the cutting room floor. And what I write about and learn how to lead to win is how to lead. Like, I realized in 1997 that I was going to take command of my fighter squadron, and I was interested in like, so what do? You can read a book and it says, do this something, it's some kind of a platitude or a thing. But I really, as I shaped my own approach to leading with my heart and not a title, I just write about what I learned. So this particular story is not in the book. So it's kind of fun. My first Pentagon tour, and I had 5 Pentagon tours, 4 were very similar. The last 4 were very similar, where I recommended to the chief of naval operations at various levels what we should buy for the Navy to equip the Navy. And my first one, was I was the aviation liaison officer to the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Public Affairs, and it was all about military aviation to community relations events. Think air shows. Okay, so I coordinated the approval of the Blue Angels, the Thunderbirds, and the U.S. Army parachute team, the Golden Knights, and then any military support to air shows. And so, I would go out and do all that stuff. I flew with the Blues in the back seat of number 4, which was totally epic, even as an experienced fighter pilot. I was going to fly with the Thunderbirds, but I actually was standing on the ramp out at Creech Air Force Base, and they were practicing, and the Solo crashed right in front of us. The interesting point was he got hurt pretty badly, but he didn't die. He actually did. They do this falling leaf maneuver in an F-16, and he went one turn too many. It's like you got to be careful where you are, but you count. And he went one turn too many in this falling leaf towards the ground, and he just pulled up real hard. He hit the ground tail first, and then ended up being like a dune buggy through the desert. And he was ultimately got better. Had to be taken to the hospital and stuff. But so I didn't get to fly. And then the third one, the Army Golden Knights, the Army's parachute team, that's the U.S. Army's demonstration team. And the men and women who jump are part of Army Special Forces. And so as part of these efforts I was doing in this job, I would go and visit the demonstration teams at their various sites. And so I went down to Fort Bragg, and I was helping the Army parachute team schedulers to come up with a schedule for the 1995 show season. And so these guys are all sergeants, and they're like, "Hey, sir, you got to jump with us." I'm like, "No, thank you. No, not going to do that." I ejected out of a Tomcat in 1987. I kind of know what it's like to ride down in a parachute, and no thanks, I'm good. And oh, sir, come on. And, I'm a lieutenant commander at the time, flying Tomcats, but sir, you got to do this. And, President Bush jumped with us. And I go, well, yeah, but, that's kind of what he's doing, tandem jump. And so, sir, come on. Hey, a 94-year-old grandmother with us last week. And okay, I can't say no now with that challenge. That's like one of those medieval slaps across the face with the glove, and you got to take the duel, right? It's like, all right, I come jump with you. And so they said, okay, do you want to do like the tandem jump, like you always see where you're strapped to somebody, or do you want to do what's called accelerated free fall? And for your listeners who parachute, accelerated free fall is a 7-jump syllabus to get you, and the very first jump, you have your own parachute, and the 2 instructors are hanging on to you for the first like 3 or 4 jumps, and then you are jumping out by yourself with the instructor for the last the last 3, so total of 7 jumps, and then you're a novice skydiver, free fall skydiver, and you're on your own. And so anyway, that's the syllabus. And I said, I know how to work a parachute. I don't want to be strapped to somebody. I'd rather do this AFF thing. And they're like, okay. So the next day, for the first half the day, I'm in the rigger shop, learning the parachute gear they use and all those kind of things. And I'm used to that with the U.S. Navy, because we would get annual parachute training as part of our survival skills, if you have to eject out of an airplane. And so I'm familiar with it, all the gear, and he's showing me all the stuff. And then that afternoon, we go up in their F-100 Fokker, which is a twin-engine demonstration aircraft. Your listeners would see it at air shows. It's black and white and gold, and the team jumps out of that airplane. So I get in the airplane, and my instructors are 2 Delta Force guys, and so pretty badass people. And both of them are shorter than I am, and just, kill you with their pinky finger, right? Like, wow. Just totally awesome people. 2 males, 2 men, very matter of fact, right? So we go up in the airplane. Okay, cool. And there's a whole row of like new guys who are trying out for the team, and they're wondering who this guy is with the big mustache. In the Navy, I had a big mustache, and they think I must be some weird kind of special operator who's jumping with these guys, some kind of training thing. So they're all looking at me kind of weird. And the instructors are like, yeah, they're trying to figure out who you are. I'm just, pogue, right? So we get up to 14,000 feet, and we're going to jump 14,000 feet in this free fall thing. And I'm like, okay, hey, great. I've done a bunch of training, in the Tomcat and stuff. They rolled open the door, and I looked down at that ground, and my knees buckled. I was like, oh, no. I mean, I was like, no. I'm not doing that. That's when my knees buckled. And I was terrified of like that first step, right? It's looking like going, oh, no. So I backed up like just like a dog who's getting pushed against something. I just, nope. So these guys tucked up underneath my armpits, and we're standing there a couple feet from the door, a couple steps from the door. And one of them on my right side says, sir, this airplane's going to land, and we're not going to be on it. We can either throw you out, or you can take us out. It's your call. And in that instant, looking in that guy's eyes, and this is why trust is so important, my fear completely disappeared. Gone. And I'm looking at his eyes going, even if I fainted dead away, which was a possibility in my mind, these guys would pull my ripcord, and I would survive. I mean, they would make sure that I would survive this fall because of their competence, their total confidence in their craft and the whole thing. So I talk about trust in that way, that these guys, in my experience, they took away all of my fear. And I went, okay, 1, 2, 3, boom, out we went. And it was epic. I mean, oh my gosh, your listeners that do skydiving, it was awesome. It's a minute of free fall all the way down. It's the coolest thing I've ever done, including flying fighters. It's literally the coolest thing I've ever done. And, I get down, we do a minute, and I am so enamored with being outside and not being in an airplane and follow towards the earth. And it literally feels just like it looks on TV when you watch the airplane just kind of go away at a certain pace. Like you see the video of the airplane just disappearing up. You have all the noise, but there's no sense of falling. You're just in the air. And I was so enamored, I didn't even pull my ripcord. I was looking, and they were pointing at me, giving the signal to pull. I didn't do anything. So one guy leaves, he tracks away, and the other guy reaches down with one hand and pulls my ripcord as he's backing away from me, and I go blasting up into my chute, kind of like, whoo, okay, cool. And so I steer the chute all the way down, and I land like 1.5 miles off the drop zone. I land in a cornfield. It's all muddy. I go, into the mud and stuff like that. And so I'm picking up my chute. I kind of wrap it up, and I'm carrying it. And they drive across in this Jeep, coming to get me from the DZ. And they're like, sir, are you okay? And I go, yeah, can I do that again? And so up we went, and they're looking at me, hey, can you do it again? Sure. So up we went. I did the second jump. And as a matter of fact, I have 26 free falls of the Golden Ice because I completed the syllabus as their student. And I jumped with them out at Yuma Proving Ground in Arizona. I did 3 night jumps. That's a separate story. And then I stopped because I was going to command, and I thought if I turned an ankle or broke a leg, I wouldn't get to go. So yeah, that's my trust story.
That's incredible. It reminds me of being, when we're leaders, when we're leading a team, just the confidence that we can portray instills trust in people. And even though as leaders, as business owners, we can really get gut punches sometimes. And I think in my experience, I've had much larger gut punches as a business owner than I ever did as an employee. And, but our people are watching. And, it reminds me of this story. I obviously don't have your flying experience. I travel a lot, all commercial. And I'm not a huge fan of turbulence. Okay. Over the years, the older I get, the more it bothers me. And I was flying from Boston to Phoenix once. And I'm kind of, I have my headphones in, listen to some music or something. And smooth flight, about an hour in, a flight attendant's kind of walking toward, she's walking toward the back. And I just kind of make eye contact with her. And then we just get slammed with this sudden turbulence, just knocks her down. She goes straight to the ground, hits her knees, and I could hear through my headphones the thud of her hitting the ground. And I'm like, wow, I was startled, and then I'm like, watching her, she immediately pops up, smile on her face, and she's like, oh, a couple of bumps, kept walking. And at that time I was having some issues. I was in Boston, I have a business there, and I was working with my company, and there was a severe regulatory issue that we'd run into. And I had an employee that told me about it. And I felt like that flight attendant, right? So for the employee that told me about it, like I needed to have that confidence, that trust, right? Like I had to instill that trust in that individual and make sure that that individual knew that everything was going to be okay. Just like she did for me. The way now if she pops up and she's like, oh my gosh, like holding on, but she just kept going, like, and I don't know, it probably didn't make her that nervous, but it was more what she portrayed to me. And when those individuals, when you were about to make that first jump, you got this sense that, hey man, everything's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Like these guys are experts. And as business owners, that I can't overstate how important that is, no matter what's going on inside, no matter that inward turmoil. So I appreciate that story.
I think your example is perfect for the audience. And I will tell you that in fact, the focus you have and the audience you have, this is a great story, because the trust, like you talked about, you can take away the fear. And as a business owner, especially an entrepreneurial business owner, you have a hot rock in your gut. You don't know if this is going to work. Exactly. Right. And so you're portraying, it's even harder because, those guys, I could look at them and I knew that they were experienced jumpers and all kinds of things. And I looked at them and I said, they're going to save my life. You as a leader, an entrepreneurial mindset, you have to exude the confidence and demonstrate the competence that they can bet on you. And if you're doing just like your flight attendant, if she went screaming down the aisle going, oh my God, we're all going to die. You'd have been fairly worried, right? And so if the boss in your entrepreneurial company says, oh my God, we're all going to fail, now your employees aren't, they're fearful as well. So that the trust in you, they're looking to you every day. Hey boss, how's this going to go? Oh man, come on. I've done this like 25 times. We're good. And inside you're like, I don't know how this is going to go. And I'll tell you, in my career, there were so many times when, whether it's me flying the airplane and like, this is not looking good right now, or was driving a ship, like, and I write about them in the book. But as a leader, you have to exude the confidence. You can't be fearful. You can't. And so you have to demonstrate that. So the best leaders, and especially the way you all are in your entrepreneurial piece, where you're not exactly sure you have control of the environment, but you're going to do the best you can, you still have to exude that confidence, just like you said.
Yeah, it's something that there's a couple of tools or a couple of things that I've been able to put into place to kind of put me in a position where I could react in a calm manner, even though the entire thing is that I don't know what's going to happen, right? But I do know that something's going to happen. And over the years, like I've proven to myself more, and I think that's the most important part. I've proven to myself that we can work through things. I can figure things out. I can put the people around me that I need to, so that the next time somebody tells me something that's out of left field, just this morning, I own a pest control company, and I had a technician that was involved in a serious accident. But you want to exude that experience and kind of take a couple of deep breaths before responding. And that's one of my favorite things, honestly, about being a business owner and starting a business is the unknown. Now let's talk about fear for a little bit. A lot of fear comes from the unknown. So when you were about to make that jump, you didn't know for sure, right? But that trust that you had, those people that you were with, kind of helped alleviate that fear a little bit.
Oh, huge. And I'm so happy you brought that up, because the thing I was going to add to your fear comes from uncertainty. And I think you can probably track about every single fear somebody would have to uncertainty. And And so there's a way to deal with it. One, you want to take away as much uncertainty as you can. There's a couple of ways to do it. One, your experience. Been here before, done this a lot. This is what's going to happen. Or haven't been here, but I've seen these kind of things before. We're going to see a couple of things happen. If we see this, we're going to go this way. If we see that, we're going to go that way. And given the employees, especially the group, a sense that how to react to a certain situation gives them, more of a certainty that you kind of know what you're doing. My certainty in that case that those two special operators, they know what they're doing. So no matter what's going to happen here, even though I'm uncertain about, what's going to happen in the next few seconds, they gave me this, hey, we're not going to be on the airplane and we know what we're doing and you're going to be fine, even though they didn't say all of that. Mm-hmm. And so I totally agree with you, especially, people that are entrepreneurs and they're just getting started and then COVID hits, mm-hmm. or way back in 9/11, September 11, 2001, the airline industry is taking off and you got, going like crazy and all of a sudden it goes to zero. So if anything you had, tied to the travel industry or something like that, mm-hmm. bang, stops. And you might just be getting started. And now you're sitting there going, well, now what are we going to do? And some of the trials and tribulations through the COVID pandemic, a lot of uncharted territory. But the best leaders are the ones that go, all right, I got this. I'm not sure what the environment's going to do, but we're going to inoculate ourselves against these sorts of effects. And you get as much certainty as you can. And then you're telling that to the employees that I think I have a couple different courses of action about where we're going to go. Tell them what you know, what you think, what you don't know, and you're honest with them and you're transparent with them. And you exude that confidence, like we talked about, even if you're dying inside and go, I don't know if we're going to survive this thing, you have to exude that confidence. And then the way you get confidence into them, especially the ones that are your better sort of, more confident people, is you take away that uncertainty so they can act and then go, yep, boss is going to, yeah, he's got it. I watched this happen one time too, and I'm helping. And so trying to take away that uncertainty will reduce the fear and you'll be able to lead your employees more effectively.
I posted on my social media last week, I think it's a Colin Powell quote, something about the 40-70 rule, where if you make a decision before you have 40% of the information, you're just guessing. But if you wait until after you have more than 70% of the information, then you're stalling. And so as business owners, there's that area between 70 and 100% where we have to make decisions and we have to move quickly. And so there is going to be some of that uncertainty, but as leaders, we have to make sure, and a lot of times that's where we live, right? But we have to bear the brunt of that, right? Where we have a smile on our face, we're motivated, we're not naive. We don't say, hey, this is 100% going to work or whatever. We create a safety net in some cases, but I think it's just important for us to, as entrepreneurs and business owners, you have to accept some level of uncertainty, but I do appreciate your comment that a big part of that is let's limit that as much as possible and then take the jump.
Right. It also helps when you put a couple of wins in place that you say, this is what we're going to do to take the jump, and it works.
Exactly.
And it works, and then it works again, and now the confidence in you has gone skyrocketing because you took an uncertain situation, you made it better. Contrast that with, through no fault of your own, as an entrepreneurial company boss, it doesn't go your way, and you jump and you fail, and you jump again and you fail, and you jump again and you fail. Now people are going to start to think, now wait a second, the boss is making the wrong decisions based on the information he has.
Right.
What's going to happen there is all of the naysayers are going to bubble up, and they're going to keep paralysis into, all the naysayers are going to say, I don't think we ought to do that. And they'll keep you in that paralysis, 40% area. And so you have to find a way to keep them moving with you, even though some of this stuff might be the unknown. I think most failures occur when people wring their hands too much.
And I think there's this idea that, even like, what does failure mean? it doesn't mean that, because when you make a mistake or you make the wrong decision or something doesn't work out, a lot of times people think, well, that's the end of the story. But, we have more control even after that, right? How does that affect future decisions? How do we implement change so that that doesn't happen again? And if you look at failure or mistakes, if that's what you're most fearful of, as hey, there's going to be this opportunity to learn from them. It just really changes the mentality. I think it reduces the fear too, because it's like, hey, win, lose, or draw, like I'm going to come out ahead on this. And it reminds me of the story. It was a famous banker. I'm going to kind of ruin the details a bit, but 80, 100 years ago, had an employee that made this huge mistake. In today's terms, several $1 million mistake. Owner of the bank calls the employee to his office. Before the employee goes, he packs up all of his stuff from his desk, takes his box in there. Boss is like, what's with the box? And he's like, well, I mean, you're going to fire me. So I figured I'd have my stuff ready to go. He's like, fire you? I just invested, several $1 million into you. You're the last person that I'm going to fire because there's no way you're going to make that mistake again. And so if we view these setbacks from a different perspective, they're not so scary.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think I remember, and I might have this completely wrong, but I think that was in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
I think that's right.
And I think it was Carnegie that did that to his employee, I think, because it's a wonderful story. And I laughed out loud when I read the book. It's like, I just invested a couple million and you think I'm going to get rid of you? You got to go earn it back.
Exactly.
I totally agree with that, that notion of the failure thing. In fact, in my book, there are 3 themes in Learn How to Lead to Win. The very first one is, and I'll get to the failure thing. The very first one is begin with the end in mind, like Stephen Covey's one of his 7 habits. Begin with the end in mind. I'm going that way. Now, I have that North Star in my head. I'm going that direction. Mm-hmm. Your listeners have companies that have a North Star. I'm going that direction. Mm-hmm. Second theme is failure. And you have to embrace failure. And what I tell people, and they're like, well, how do I do that? You don't wake up every day and go, I'm going to fail today. Mm-hmm. You also are, the way you think about it is, I'm going to try to fail. That's where I'm going to learn. That is a very advanced thought. But what you need to do is go, it's okay if I fail, as long as I never quit. And so your point about the failure happens when you quit. So the metaphor of falling down or tripping or getting knocked down, when you stay down, you just failed. And so then the third theme of my book is the resilience to get back up and keep going towards that North Star. Now, you might have been knocked 20 yards to the right or the left, or knocked back a year, but you still have your North Star and you still got, where you want to go. I think another part of Napoleon Hill's book was Thomas Edison. He didn't just invent the light bulb. He tried 10,000 times and he couldn't get it. And then finally he gets a light bulb. People go, well, he invented the light bulb. It must have been like that. So the ability to, the way you think about failure is extremely important. And when you do fail, you fall down, you lose a whole bunch of money, you get up and you go, all right, well, we got to try again, because I'm still trying to get to that place. And as a really excellent entrepreneurial boss, you've got a vision. Like, I know this is going to work. I know it's going to work. And you're passionate. You're like, hey, everybody, gather up. Yeah, we just lost all our money yesterday. And so, all right, but this is what I'm going to do to get the money back, because what we're trying to do is still exactly right. And it's going to be right. So I'm taking these actions. It's that ability to get up from the failure and the way you view failure that's most important. People that stop trying and quit will fail on that pursuit. And there are so many stories in my book through my whole career. So I'll drone on for a minute. If you look at my bio, not the funny one that you said about, Kelly and the Harleys and Thundering Jets, we just thought that was a tongue-in-cheek cool thing. I've been married to Kelly now for over 40 years. We'll be 41 years in July. But they go, well, Naval Academy guy, fighter pilot, Top Gun graduate, commanded an aircraft carrier, got to be an admiral. Wow, look at you, totally successful. And I go, you know what it took to get there? every one of those stages had, mountains to climb, barriers to overcome. I got stopped a couple of times and thought I was done. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to go forward. And then the power of it was, I realized after each one of the failures, Allan, that the remedy or the thing that happened was actually better than I thought it was going to be in the first place. And so I learned a lot from the failure, and the hand of providence, or whatever you want to call it. It was something great happened to me in the exact near-term wake of the failure, that allowed me to just kind of think about that. And so what I try to tell people about is, don't be afraid of failure. Keep going as hard as you can towards your North Star. Keep that end in sight. Yeah, you're going to get knocked back, but you'll get what you want. If you stop going towards your North Star, you will fail. And you don't want to do that. Yeah,
I love that. It's, it's really tough to fail when you don't quit. And I think that's a great takeaway. Mike, it's been a real pleasure. Where can people reach out to you? Where can they find out more about what you're doing? Where can they find that book, Lead to Win? That sounds awesome. Where can they track that down?
Yeah, thanks, Allan. Our whole content is on www.mikemanazir.com. It's just my first name, Mike, and then manazir.com. All the content's on there. There are buttons to buy the book on there. The book is offered on Amazon. It's also an audio, so paperback, ebook for Kindle, and a hardcover. I also narrated my own audiobook, and so I'm telling those stories in my own, passionate voice. And so that all of those formats. It's also available on Ingram Spark as a retail point of sale. So if your entrepreneurs are looking for a way that's not Amazon, they can go over to to Ingram Spark and get it over there. Barnes and Noble is carrying it and things like that. But we besides the book, that's like the keystone right now. We have a lot of content on the website. I do some newsletters on the things we just got done talking about. I just issued my 6th newsletter. We're on a path to 10, and it gets into some of these things that maybe your listeners will find that will give them, just kind of some nuanced tips and tricks into how to lead, because that's really where my focus is how do we talk about this? And you and I had a great debate there on uncertainty and fear, and how, you can use those things in your experience and in my experience to actually create greater success in these companies.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's, it's always great to learn from somebody else's perspective. And, a lot of it for me, as I read and I listen to other people's experiences and even sometimes their shortcomings, I think there's a couple of things that I take the most from it. One is how it changed the way I think and approach tough decisions. And then, that the second aspect is it gives me motivation. It motivates me. These conversations motivate me, as I've still got a lot of work left to do today in my businesses. So I appreciate you so much for coming on, Mike. I wish you nothing but success in the future.
Thanks, Allan. This has been a wonderful conversation. And I just want to stress, if anybody's out there going, well, that's a military guy, that's that this stuff doesn't apply to me. I have found it applies in many, many different pursuits. And I think Absolutely. You and me, in just a very short period of time, shared perspectives that same thing, big military and then a small entrepreneurial company, those people skills, they're going to help you win.
Absolutely.
Great being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Mike.
If you have enjoyed today's podcast, please leave us a rating. And for daily inspiration and business tips, follow Allan on Instagram. Until next time, remember, we build the future one entrepreneur at a time.